Throughout history, have you ever wondered why some secret societies survived for centuries, yet left almost no trace? Why were they able to gather the greatest minds of humanity, from Leonardo da Vinci, Isaac Newton, to Victor Hugo, yet never appear openly before the world? Why did they believe the universe could only be perfect when male and female, light and darkness, divine and mortal, were united in absolute harmony? In the mystical view, the universe was never built from opposites apart, but from their union. Male and female are not enemies. They are two halves that create life itself. Light cannot exist without darkness, just as the divine can never be separated from the mortal world. And if that is true, could Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene truly be two halves of a sacred whole, the union of spirit and life? Why has a secret powerful enough to overturn faith and rewrite history never been revealed? Could it be because humanity is not yet ready to accept that the Holy Grail is not an object, but a sacred bloodline, the eternal symbol of unity? All of these questions lead back to one name, the Priory of Sion. Some say they were the guardians of the Grail, protectors of the sacred bloodline of Jesus and Mary Magdalene, keepers of ancient knowledge the world was never meant to see. But others claim it was nothing more than an elaborate hoax of the 20th century, invented by a dreamer. So what is the truth? In this video, we will embark on a journey across centuries. We will decode secret documents, trace hidden conspiracies, and uncover a mystery that could change the way we see ourselves. Prepare yourself, because once you hear this story, you may never look at history the same way again. When people hear the name Priory of Sion, they often imagine an ancient brotherhood, a secret order stretching back to the Middle Ages, tied to the Crusades and to shocking mysteries buried in history. But in reality, the name Priory of Sion only officially appeared in 1956 in a small French town called Annemasse. Its founder was not a pope, nor a knight of any holy order, but a strange man named Pierre Plantard. He claimed to be a descendant of the Merovingian kings, a dynasty that ruled France more than 1,000 years ago. Plantard registered the priory as nothing more than a tiny local association, created to defend the rights of ordinary townspeople. Yet behind this ordinary facade, he planted a story so extraordinary, the world could not look away. He claimed that the Priory of Sion had in fact existed for nearly 1,000 years, that it was founded in 1099, right after the first Crusaders seized Jerusalem, and that its mission was to guard a sacred secret, one so explosive it could change the entire history of Christianity. Plantard went even further. He claimed that the priory had once gathered the greatest figures in human history. Among its so-called Grand Masters were names that shook the world: Leonardo da Vinci, Isaac Newton, Botticelli, Victor Hugo. According to Plantard, these were not only geniuses of art and science, but chosen guardians of a bloodline too dangerous to reveal. Just imagine it. Leonardo da Vinci, the Renaissance genius, painting works laced with hidden codes. Newton, father of classical mechanics, yet obsessed with biblical prophecy and alchemy. Victor Hugo, the great novelist of Les Miserables, secretly part of a brotherhood sworn to protect a 1,000-year-old secret. The very idea was irresistible. And overnight, the Priory of Sion became the beating heart of countless conspiracy theories. But there was one problem. All of it rested on the words of one man, Pierre Plantard. There was no solid historical evidence that the priory had ever existed before the 20th century. So why did this story spread so widely? Why did it captivate the imagination of the world? The answer lies in a set of secret documents that Plantard and his associates revealed in the 1960s. They were known as Les Dossiers Secrets, hidden deep inside the National Library of Paris. It was these mysterious manuscripts that fanned the flames of legend, transforming the Priory of Sion from an obscure footnote into one of the greatest enigmas of the modern age. When Pierre Plantard wove his tale of the Priory of Sion, he did more than imagine a hidden order lurking in the shadows. He cast them as the invisible hand behind the birth of the Knights Templar, guiding, commanding, and shaping one of the most powerful military and religious forces of medieval Europe. According to Plantard, and to the legends tied to Les Dossiers Secrets, the priory was founded in 1099, right after the Crusaders seized Jerusalem. Barely 2 decades later, in 1119, the first group of knights, supposedly under the priory's protection and command, founded the Order of the Temple. To the world, they appeared as warriors in white cloaks, sworn to defend pilgrims on their way to the Holy Land. But in the shadows, they were said to be the priory's sword arm, carrying out the orders of a power that never showed its face. Several details in legend make it easy to believe that the Templars were nothing more than tools of a hidden master. First, their extraordinary wealth. From a handful of poor knights, they became, within decades, Europe's most powerful bankers. Could this really come only from the charity of the faithful? Or did the priory arm them with secret knowledge unearthed in Jerusalem, turning them into keepers of treasure and custodians of wealth for the hidden order? Second, the priory's own list of Grand Masters, as revealed in Les Dossiers Secrets, overlaps with the very age of the Templars' rise. Was it coincidence? Or were the priory's leaders quietly directing every move, using the Templars as both shield and sword? And third, the Templars' decision to place their headquarters on the ruins of Solomon's Temple. Was this mere chance? Or part of a plan laid long before? A secret mission ordered by the priory to dig, to search, to uncover mysteries that no one else could know. For centuries, whispers claimed the Templars did find something beneath the Temple Mount. Some believed they unearthed scrolls, ancient writings from the dawn of Christianity that could reveal the truth about Jesus' life and his bloodline. Others insist they discovered the Holy Grail itself, not a golden cup, but the symbol of a sacred lineage carried through Mary Magdalene. Still others say they found the lost treasure of Solomon, relics of gold, sacred artifacts of ancient Israel, even occult knowledge granting power greater than any throne. Strangely enough, right after their mission in Jerusalem, the Templars' rise became unstoppable. From poor knights, they became Europe's strongest military and financial force, owning castles, lands, and creating the first banking network the continent had ever known. Could such power really have come only from donations of the faithful? Or was it fueled by something hidden, something far more dangerous? The theory grows stronger that the Priory of Sion commanded the Templars to dig beneath Solomon's temple. And what they found there was not just treasure, but a secret capable of shaking Christianity to its core. A secret so powerful that kings feared them and coveted their strength until they decided the Templars had to be destroyed at any cost. By the early 14th century, the Templars' brilliance had turned to a curse. Their wealth rivaled kings. Their network of castles stretched across Europe. Even monarchs were in their debt. King Philip IV of France, drowning in loans owed to the Templars, saw only one escape: erase them. On a fateful Friday, October 13th, 1307, Templars across France were arrested. They were accused of heresy, worshipping the demon Baphomet, practicing dark rituals. Under brutal torture, many confessed to crimes they had never committed. Hundreds were executed by fire, including Jacques de Molay, the Grand Master himself. And yet, not a single treasure was found, not a single secret revealed. Everything Philip IV and Pope Clement V had hoped for, gold, relics, proof of heresy, vanished, as if it had never existed. This has led many to believe that before the trap was sprung, the Priory of Sion intervened, that they spirited away the treasure, the manuscripts, the knowledge, hiding them where no king or pope could reach. The Templars, as the military arm, were sacrificed, while the heart of the Priory lived on, guarding the secret in silence. Thus, official history records only the fall of a mighty order, burned in fire and blood. But legend tells a different story, not an ending, but a move in a greater game. The Templars fell, yet the Priory endured, continuing to protect a mystery that could overturn the foundations of Christianity itself. And centuries later, when the secret dossiers suddenly appeared in Paris, the shadow of the Priory returned, like it had never disappeared at all. Centuries after the Templars were erased in fire and blood, the world nearly forgot the name Priory of Sion. But then, in the 1960s, a strange discovery in the heart of Paris brought the legend back to life. Hidden deep inside the National Library of France, among millions of manuscripts, lay a set of files with a haunting title: Les Dossiers Secrets, the secret dossier. No one knew who placed them there. No one knew why they had remained untouched for so long. But what they revealed shook the world. The dossiers were like a doorway into a hidden world. They described the Priory of Sion not as a vague secret society, but as an ancient order that had endured for nearly 1,000 years. Guardians of secrets that could shake history itself. At the top of their pyramid of power stood the Grand Masters, supreme leaders, keepers of all secrets. They ruled with no armies, no thrones, no crowns. Yet their influence could reach farther than kings. Each Grand Master was said to be a genius, brilliant minds who lit their age while hiding coded truths within their art and ideas. In the dossier, the names were staggering. Leonardo da Vinci, weaving hidden codes into the Last Supper. Isaac Newton, scientist and secret alchemist. Victor Hugo, whose writings carried cryptic allusions. Their role was not simply to guard the Grail or the sacred bloodline, but to transmit the truth through the language of genius, burying secrets in paintings, in books, in science itself. Grand Masters were chosen with utmost care, often from initiates or custodes who had proven both brilliance and absolute loyalty. Once chosen, they became living memory, linking past, present, and future, ensuring the flame of secrecy never died. Beneath them were the seneschaux, faithful regents, silent hands who turned vision into action. If the Grand Masters were the mind, the Seneschaux were the will. They oversaw the Chevalier, guarded the secret routes, and kept the Priory's network alive across Europe. Rarely remembered by history, yet essential. Without them, the Priory would collapse like a castle of sand. Supporting them were the Chevalier, the hidden knights, guardians in the shadows. Not celebrated in chronicles, not dazzling on the battlefield like the Templars, but they were the blade and shield of the Priory. They escorted relics, carried treasures from Jerusalem, and silenced any who dared approach the truth. Some whisper it was the Chevaliers who carried the treasures out of Jerusalem across the Mediterranean, hiding them in fortresses across Europe. Others claim it was they who struck in silence, removing threats before secrets could ever be revealed. They were nameless phantoms, appearing only to protect, to kill, to erase. Deeper still were the custodes, the keepers of memory. If the Chevaliers were the sword, the custodes were the soul. They held ancient manuscripts, secret genealogies, maps of bloodlines passed through the ages. They lived like librarians of the night, copying, preserving, and hiding documents in crypts, churches, forgotten libraries. Each page was more than words. It was a fragment of truth that could upend Christianity itself. Some believe it was the custodes who quietly placed Les Dossiers Secrets into the National Library, leaving just enough trace for the world to know. The Priory had never died. And at the lowest tier were the initiés, the initiated, brilliant thinkers, artists, scientists, chosen through dark oaths and secret trials. For them, joining the Priory was not glory, but a lifelong test. They were given only fragments of truth, enough to inspire loyalty, but never the whole. Some waited a lifetime, taking on dangerous missions, hoping one day to rise, perhaps to custodes, or even to Grand Master. The initiés were the seeds. They ensured the Priory would never break, that each generation would bring new blood, new strength. Look at this structure, and the Priory of Sion emerges like a kingdom of shadows. The Grand Masters as the torch, the Seneschaux as the pillars, the Chevalier as the sword, the Custodes as memory eternal, and the Initiés as the future, all bound by a single mission: to guard the supreme secret of the Holy Grail and the sacred bloodline. A truth so powerful, if revealed, it could shake the very foundations of human history. For centuries, the Holy Grail has been described as the most sacred relic of Christianity. For many, it was the cup that caught the blood of Christ at his crucifixion, a vessel of miraculous power. But to the Priory of Sion, the Grail meant something entirely different. According to the legends and secret documents, the Grail was not an object, but a bloodline, the bloodline of Jesus himself. Some stories claim that after the crucifixion, Jesus did not die, or at least, not in the way the Church has always told us. He was saved, and together with Mary Magdalene, his closest disciple, perhaps even his wife, he left behind a secret bloodline. In this vision, Mary Magdalene is no longer the sinful woman condemned by the Church. She becomes the mother of the sacred bloodline, the living Grail, the vessel of Christ's life. That is why, in symbolism, the Grail is not a golden chalice, but the image of the feminine, of the womb, of creation itself. The legend tells us that Mary fled to Gaul, what is now southern France, carrying the sacred blood within her. Her descendants became the ancestors of the Merovingian dynasty, the ancient kings of France. And the Priory of Sion was founded to guard and protect that lineage through centuries of war, conspiracy, and persecution. If this were true, then the entire foundation of the Catholic Church would tremble. Instead of a divine figure beyond humanity, Jesus becomes flesh and blood, a man who had a wife, children, and left heirs upon the earth. And Mary Magdalene, once cast aside, emerges as the central figure in the story of salvation. It is because of the danger of this truth that the Priory of Sion, according to legend, built such a complex system of protection. Grand masters, geniuses who hid the secret in art and science, chevaliers, guardians of relics and treasures, custodes, keepers of genealogies, initiates, seeds for the future, all bound to a single mission: to preserve the truth of the sacred bloodline until humanity is ready to accept it. This, too, is why figures like Leonardo da Vinci and Isaac Newton were said to have been drawn into the Priory, not just as geniuses of their age, but as chosen messengers, encoding the secret in paintings, in writings, in works meant to last forever. And so the question is no longer, does the Holy Grail exist? The question becomes, if the bloodline still survives, could the descendants of Jesus and Mary Magdalene be living among us today? For centuries, the Priory of Sion lingered only as a faint name, hidden in obscure documents. But everything changed in the early 21st century, when that name suddenly exploded onto the world stage through literature and film. In 2003, author Dan Brown published his novel, The Da Vinci Code. In its pages, the Priory of Sion appeared not as a forgotten order, but as a powerful secret society, entrusted with guarding the bloodline of Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene. From Leonardo da Vinci to Isaac Newton, from Paris to London, the story unfolded like a labyrinth of codes, conspiracies, and symbols. Within months, the book became a global phenomenon, selling tens of millions of copies, translated into dozens of languages, igniting the imagination of readers around the world. 3 years later, the film adaptation, The Da Vinci Code, starring Tom Hanks as Robert Langdon, brought the Priory to the silver screen. Dark cathedrals, shadowy museums, cryptic paintings, all stitched together with mysterious dialogue, transformed the Priory into a household name. Even those who had never studied the Middle Ages now knew its shadow. And it didn't stop there. The Priory of Sion began appearing in documentaries, research books, and television conspiracies. From history channels to investigative shows, people debated, doubted, defended, speaking of the Priory as if it were still alive, still moving in the darkness. What's fascinating is that even after scholars revealed that Les Dossiers Secrets were likely forgeries by Pierre Plantard, the allure of the Priory never faded. If anything, its mystery grew stronger, because people are drawn to what cannot be proven, to the questions without answers. And the Priory of Sion became the perfect enigma, real enough to believe, elusive enough to escape certainty. Today, the Priory of Sion stands as a cultural icon, mentioned in the same breath as the Illuminati or the Freemasons. With each film, each novel, each theory, its name flares back to life, fueling endless debates. Was it merely fiction? Or has a secret brotherhood truly been shaping the course of history from the shadows? After the name Priory of Sion exploded worldwide through the Da Vinci Code, scholars, journalists, and historians began digging into the story. And it was then that the mist surrounding the Priory began to fade. At the center of it all were the Les Dossiers Secrets, the only evidence suggesting that the priory had existed for centuries. But when examined closely, the files revealed contradictions, impossibilities, even signs of forgery. Researchers discovered that Pierre Plantard himself, the very man who founded the priory in 1956, had admitted to helping fabricate the documents. For many, that confession was the final blow. The Priory of Sion, they concluded, was nothing more than the invention of a dreamer with ambitions too large. And yet, here lies the paradox. Even when exposed as a hoax, the Priory of Sion did not vanish. Instead, it became even more captivating, because history has shown us, time and again, that real secrets are often disguised as lies, that truths too dangerous to reveal may first appear as deceptions, only to be uncovered centuries later. So was Plantard simply a fraud? Or was he a pawn, deliberately placed to mislead the world away from a greater truth? Some researchers argue that whether or not the priory existed as described, the myths themselves of the Holy Grail, of Jerusalem's lost treasure, of the bloodline of Christ, had already taken root in humanity's imagination. The priory was just a new name, attached to timeless mysteries, a mirror reflecting mankind's eternal obsession, the search for hidden truth. In the end, the question is not whether the Priory of Sion truly existed. The question is, why do we want to believe in it? Perhaps it is because, deep down, we long for history to hold more than what we've been told, for a secret waiting in the shadows, a truth powerful enough to change everything we think we know. The Priory of Sion, the secret order said to have stood behind the birth of the Knights Templar, guardians of Jerusalem's treasure, keepers of the sacred bloodline of Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene. Through this journey, we have traced legends, secret documents, brilliant grand masters, and the doubts that deny it all. Some believe it was nothing more than an elaborate hoax by Pierre Plantard, born of imagination and forged manuscripts. But others insist that beneath the dust of history, a deeper truth remains hidden, and that the priory is simply the latest name attached to an ancient secret. The fascination of the priory does not lie in whether it is real, but in the questions it forces us to ask. Is what we know of history merely a veil? Is there an unseen current, guarded by geniuses, knights, and nameless souls, flowing silently through the centuries? And the greatest question of all, if the sacred bloodline of Christ truly exists, could his descendants be walking among us today, silent, hidden, waiting for the moment to step into the light? Perhaps we will never have a final answer, but it is this very uncertainty that makes the Priory of Sion one of humanity's most compelling legends, a mystery without resolution.